people trying to get through the door, although the room's already crowded. But I'll keep shining over you all, and with your wings entwining, you better face the fall and keep trying again. Oh yeah, keep trying again. Zeros, everybody's trying to be heroes when all they have to say to be okay is I don't know, and keep trying again. I'll keep shining over you all with your wings entwining. You better face the fall. Zero, everybody's trying to be heroes when all they have to say to be okay is I don't know. Are you okay? I'm not that sure. Forever young, or am I faking? On the tip of my tongue, there's a sarcasm waiting for you. I'm willing to trade my soul for a bit of your charm. There's no way I'll fade into oblivion, 'cause I'll keep shining over you all, and if your wings entwining, you better face the fall, keep trying again. Oh yeah, keep trying again. There's mud on the floor, disparate people trying to get through the door, although the room's already crowded. But I'll keep shining over you all, and with your wings entwining, you better face the fall and keep trying again. Oh yeah, keep trying again. Zeros, everybody's trying to be heroes when all they have to say to be okay is I don't know, and keep trying again. I'll keep shining over you all with your wings entwining. You better face the fall.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the Rolling Thunder Gaming Season 52 Superspeedway All-Star Race Weekend. Kicking things off with the qualifying race, the All-Star Open here tonight at Talladega Superspeedway. Three drivers are going to lock themselves in 3 segments in this evening's festivities. I'm Seth Cole, alongside of somebody who last season actually raced their way into the All-Star race, winning one of the segments, Jessica Shelton. So, Jess, what is the strategy for these open drivers here tonight to make sure they are going to lock themselves in, not have to really rely on the, and I put this in quotes, admin fan votes?
Well, in my case, when I actually was able to take it, it was all about track position, being up at the front, and the most important thing, getting your pit stops accurately done. Because if you screw up a pit stop, which we saw last season quite a bit, stuff, people coming in, overshooting their stall, having incidents in pit road, etc., like that. And if you recall, there was one on the first segment that I was in. I got really close to the pit wall. I believe on one of mine, I had to back up. So you got to nail the pit stops accurately and put yourself in a good position to actually do it. But hey, you don't get the first segment. That's okay. You got 2 more chances at least.
Absolutely do. You got 3 segments here tonight. The first 2 are going to be 20 laps in length, in which caution laps will also count. The third segment will run to the completion of the 66 laps for tonight's 3 segments. Brian Schilling's going to line up on point for this one alongside of Donnie Garrett. Mark Paglia will be on the inside of row 2 alongside of Ken Roberts. Row 3 will find Rodney Sellens and Bob Dixon. Row 4, Milt Surratt and Jeff Crivello. Chris Elliott in a new look there in the number 9. He's going to be rolling off from the 7th position alongside of Glenn Harris. Inside of the next row, going to be Gary Hurst and Doug Woolley in the 99, a former Tally Challenge champion. Jim Glaude in the number 72 will be alongside of Wayne Pribnow in the 00, Manny D in the very familiar Alliance Trucking colors in the 710, alongside of Andre Charest in the 75. Next row is going to find Jason Scheck on the outside of Brian Wolf, and bringing up the final row, Cy Jones in the 7 alongside of Zach Freeman in the 006.
I love that Red Bull scheme of his.
It is a beautiful scheme. Zach was kind of wondering what car he was going to drive here tonight. Of course, Zach usually broadcasting the Tally Challenge, but here tonight going to get an idea what the Tally Challenge drivers experience week after week as he takes part in this All-Star Open. So here we go, just the first 20 laps here for the first segment. Winner of this segment moves on to the All-Star race. We'll get to park it for the remainder of the festivities. Green flag is out. We're All-Star Open racing.
So far, everyone's nice and calm on their P's and Q's right away, Seth, but that's commonplace here at this track. Now, what I'm curious about, Seth, is do you think it's going to be the normal middle high line, or you think they're all going to migrate to the bottom with only 20 laps?
Boy, I'll tell you what, with 20 laps, I think we are definitely going to see the middle high line be the line everybody wants to run, but I think we start getting into the maybe 5 laps to go segment. The inside line is going to start coming into play because these drivers are going to start what they call setting themselves up for when they have to make that green flag pit stop. Drivers will have to make at least a 2-tire pit stop in every single one of these 3 segments. It's optional if you want to do a 4-tire pit stop, but it has to be at least 2 tires, and it has to take place before 2 to go in each one of these segments.
It was a little bit of a checkup with looked like Manny D around the Manny D machine a little bit. Now they're kind of spacing out just slightly as Manny slides up, trying to get out of the way. I don't know what happened unless there was a little bit of a brake check on that bottom, and that's one of the things they got to watch out for, Seth, is that bottom. There's a lot of backing off, and you don't want to be the car running in the back of someone and then just screw up their chances as well, because this is a one-time only shot here, and it's realistic damage as well.
That's a great point. Realistic damage and 3 times wear. When you drivers were in the Tally Challenge, you only had to deal with 2 times wear, so the fuel is going to deplete even quicker for these drivers in these segments.
Absolutely, and they cross the line. There's another lap ticked away. So I was out there practicing around. it was more single file than anything else. And we coming up on a lap machine. That is the lap machine of Brian Schilling. What happened to Brian Schilling, Seth?
I think Brian might have fallen out. He was leading when they went into turn 1, lap 1, disappeared from our screen, and I assume he might have fallen out of the server. And now he's going to fall an extra lap down there under green flag conditions. So tough break there for Brian Schilling. Now, I believe that when the caution comes out for these respective segments, there will be lucky dog drivers. More than likely, Schilling would get back on the lead lap for the second segment, but certainly not the way he wanted the first segment to go.
Absolutely. From what I'm looking at in the chat, looks like Richard Martin earlier had an issue. Robbie Nice's apparently received, and he fell out as well. So hopefully he can get back in and see what he can do. Hopefully he can make up some time as well if we have a couple of cautions. But like I was saying earlier, when I was out here practicing stuff, I did a couple of single file runs, and toward the end I had Rodney Sullins working with me a little bit. So I really don't have a full measure of draft, but I can tell you it was between about 12 going on 13 laps when I had to pit. So coming up on those pit stops real quickly here with 3X wear.
Yeah, and these drivers will be notified when it's 5 to go in each segment to realize that if they haven't pitted yet, they're going to have to pit in the next 2 laps. If you end up not taking a 2-tire pit stop in each segment and you win the segment, you forfeit that win. You do not advance into the All-Star race. So pit road playing just as much a factor into who's transferring to the All-Star race than what takes place on the racetrack itself, as Donnie Garrett continues to show the way. Kind of interesting, I mentioned the fact that Doug Woolley, a former Tally Challenge champion, Brian Schilling, who led us to green, a 2-time Tally Challenge champion, and right now looks like he will, at least not in the first segment, be advancing into the All-Star race. And it's interesting too here, just because, these are a lot of drivers here that we're used to seeing week after week race against you and the other Tally Challenge drivers, but there's some names that kind of popped up here in the lineup that we haven't seen in a while here in a Tally Challenge type field. I saw the 75 of Andre Charest back there, the 72 of Jim Glaude. Now, we've seen them in other series here in RTG racing at Superspeedways, but not usually week after week in the Tally Challenge.
No, well, I mean, these guys are in the chance, and they race it up to where they are allowed, and they have that option of racing in this series. And I mean, what better way? I mean, you normally don't show up, but if you're invited, why not make the chance to come on over and try to race the Open and see if you can get in? I mean, nothing's on the line. Yes, there's a little bit of bragging rights and the All-Star race itself. I get that, but there's no points on the line. There's no championship. So this is just something for all fun and giggles, really. I mean, it's something that everyone can get together and enjoy. Like we've seen those previous broadcast races that we do for the special, races and the events that we do, Seth. Just something fun to do where they can all get together and enjoy themselves. And thinking about this roster, like you were going through them, I mean, it's just a shocker to see that we have such great drivers that race constantly in Talladega Challenge. Chris Elliott, Brian Schilling, Mark Paglia, Donnie Garrett, just to name a few. But you get what I mean. It's surprising that these guys are in the Open when you would expect them to actually be in the All-Star event itself. I mean, Donnie Garrett was one of the Final Four, too.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, there's about every driver in the field here you could make a case for that should probably be in the All-Star race just based on their performances. Yeah, Zach Freemel, Manny D coming down pit road this time. One thing that I kind of have to throw out there as an X factor, you brought up the fact it's realistic damage. Let's not forget, they're not running 20 laps, then resetting the server. Drivers that have a wrecked race car can then reset. It's the 66 laps here tonight that the 3 segments are built into. So if you find yourself wrecked in segment 1, that also could take you out of the running for the upcoming segments 2 and 3.
Absolutely. But what I'm not really sure if it's just going to be the winner. If I'm not mistaken, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe last season it was the top 2 or top 3 finishers of each segment, was it not? Than the fan choices or the average choices.
Based off of what I read in the race format that they had here for the Open, it's only the winners of the 3 segments that are advancing. Now, there will be some other drivers that will advance into the All-Star race later on. Those announcements of those drivers, I'm not sure if we'll be able to announce them here during the end of tonight's broadcast, or if we're going to have to wait until the beginning of next week's broadcast for the All-Star race. But right now, based off of what it looked like for the pre-race format, only 3 drivers transfer into the All-Star race through these 3 segments.
I saw a car go way up there. I think it was Wayne Pribnow in the 00 up there.
And it looked like he went up there of his own accord. I didn't see any contact. The car that was behind him was the 75 of Andre Charest, so it looks like Pribnow may have just jumped up to the top side to purposely drop towards the back as Doug Woolley, now to the point in the 99, led a nice charge there on the top side, tucks in front of Donnie Garrett.
Now we see that inside line starting to become where you want to be at toward the end of this run, because we're already on lap 10, about to hit lap 11, so pit stops are coming up, and maybe that's what Wayne wanted to drop to the back real quickly so he can get down low as quickly as possible without causing any instance when they start checking up to try to force their way down. Because, you know, we've seen people slow down coming on pit road and people trying to stay out, and when that happens, it has really bad results, Seth.
You got to wonder about the strategy there for Zach Freeman and the 710 of Manny D. They are about half a straightaway from being put a lap down now. They have completed their pit stop here in this segment, but with only 2 cars.
Oh, we have a wreck, and that's the 914 of Gary Hurst on pit road, Seth.
No caution, as he was down below the commitment line and was not up in danger near the racing surface. Not sure how much damage he sustained there with that spin. More than likely locked up the rear tires trying to get onto pit road. We've seen that all season long in the Tally Challenge, where that left front wants to lock up, the rear tires still want to keep going, and the thing spins around on entry as here comes Donnie Garrett in the 77. He's indicating he's to pit lane. Ken Roberts, oh, we got another spinner. Rodney Sullins, hard into the outside wall there in the tri-oval.
Still no caution. We're still green. No one came back up on the track, Seth, and Doug Woolley still leading this pack along with Andre Charest running side by side up at the front. They're coming across up on Zach Freeman and Manny D right now. Manny D and Zach Freeman are slowing down, it looks like. I don't know whether they're slowing down for any issues or what, but they're getting past real quickly. It looks like they've separated some way somehow. I don't know what caused Manny D and Zach to separate. Oh! Really close quarter racing there between the 99 and the 75, Seth.
Very close. I think Doug Woolley might have been trying to use those 2 machines of Freeman and Manny D as a pick to kind of block Andre Charest out. Now he's to pit road. Jason Scheck, Crivello, Paglia in this group. 72 of Jim Gloud is in. Wayne Pribnow also. And they all got onto pit road pretty nicely. That's going to turn the race lead over, I believe, to Andre Charest in the 75. He, along with, well, I believe Brian Schilling actually will still have to make a pit stop despite falling out in the early portions of this race, because he would have only just reset when he got back in the server. I think he still has a pit stop to make.
You know, even though they made an instant coming on pit road, Rodney Sullins probably has some significant damage. I mean, I don't see any on the visual on my end, Seth, but I have a feeling that machine has some damage.
Definitely has damage, I would say, to the front end of the car. We kind of saw him go off the right side of the screen when others were coming to pit lane, and I'm pretty certain he nosed it into the outside wall, of course, where the engine is housed. And at a super speedway with realistic damage, if you're going to make impact with any part of the car, you don't want it to be with the front end.
Donnie Garrett coming off of turn 2 with a whole full head of steam, passing Doug Woolley, coming up on the 29 of Brian Wolf on the high side, passing him, coming right up behind Mark Paglia. Now, I don't know. I don't think he's going to get to the lead in time, so he's got Ken Butler, or Ken Roberts. I believe it's Ken Roberts, correct?
Yes, it is. Yes, 55. Well, he's good to get Mark Paglia here. Oh, Jason Scheck. Looks like he might have gotten busted for speeding. 3
wide, really tight. Crivello was in the middle of the track, and then we were coming up on a lap car of Gary Hurst, and Donnie threaded the needle right between them, so that was really close and intense.
Gary Hurst up into the wall there in the tri-oval. Scheck having to serve a speeding penalty.
Wayne Pribnow had an issue trying to get on pit road. He's not on the track, but he is on the bottom part of pit road, so no caution for that.
like Milt Surratt also is on pit lane there in the 80 machine as Donnie Garrett continues to show the way here. And we are now, when they hit the line, going to be 6 laps away from the completion of this first segment. Failed to mention as well something these drivers kind of have to get used to here tonight. Normally in the tally challenge, until we got to 10 to go, was always frozen field. Every caution that comes out here tonight is race back. So these drivers have to make sure that they don't instinctually hit the brake when they see the yellow flag out. They got to keep it in the throttle back to the start-finish line.
And also, these drivers who want to make a pit stop later on in the segments coming up, stuff, they got to remember, caution laps do count.
Exactly right. So these drivers now about 5 laps away from the completion of this first segment. Donnie Garrett has been out in front pretty much since the start of this race. He was second going into turn 1, but when Schilling fell out, he inherited the lead. Ken Roberts has been his wingman, but now the question is, if you're Ken Roberts, how long do you push that 77? Because it's only the winner of this segment that advanced into the All-Star race. If you're the 55, do you maybe want to wait till the second segment and lose the 77 as an ally, or do you want to go for it yourself?
Well, this is just one moment that 55 has that chance to winning it. I would go for it if I had a chance, you know? I mean, nothing really to lose. I mean, yeah, you might make Donnie a little bit aggravated, a little bit mad. He may not help you the next time he gets a chance, but hey, it's for an all-star spot. I mean, why not go for it, right, Seth?
Well, with realistic damage, you want to make sure if you make the move, you don't make it where you're going to wreck yourself in the process and take yourself completely out of the running for a spot in the All-Star race. Top 3, 4 now get themselves single file. It's Brian Wolf on the inside of Jeff Crivello for 5th place. Just inside the top 5 on back is where they're really racing it up, and this might be where the run would generate for someone to make a challenge here in the final 5 laps.
Well, any run that happens, you gotta realize that 055 and that 77, they're watching. They are watching the rearview mirror as we're really getting closer and closer to that mark stuff. They're gonna start getting really, really racy, I would imagine, the next lap or 2.
Right now, the top side consists of Jeff Crivello, Mark Paglia,
Glenn Harris.
Fords. Harris is going to come up there to get a little bit of draft and to lead that outside line. Nothing Ken Roberts could do as the 08 was to his right rear, but they got a little broken up there through 3. That's going to drop Glenn Harris back alongside Bob Dixon for 3rd place.
Yeah, when Glenn Harris made that move in that corner at that last second, Crivello had to check up just a little bit because they were so close that, you know, Crivello, I believe, was afraid he was going to wreck Glenn Harris for making that move because of how close they were. I mean, that was a good move on Harris's part, don't get me wrong. I would have done the same thing, but they just didn't have a much, you know, huge run for that momentum shift to go anywhere, Seth.
Got some traffic up ahead there. Looks like Milt Hurst as well as Manny D. Ooh, Manny D trying to figure out where the leaders are going. Moves up high. They'll use the 2 lines, middle and low. Wow, that's close there with Glenn Harris and Doug Williams.
Paglia on the apron.
And he's saving. Oh no, Jim Gloud's going to get spun around. That
Caution's
will probably bring out a yellow, and so
Caution's
that will
out.
mean I think the stage is going to end under caution.
Donnie they're getting racy up here, Seth. 3 wide.
They realize this is for the stage win, the segment win, and Donnie Garrett crosses the line. It would be 2 to go in the segment. Remember, caution laps count, so I believe this first segment is going to come to a close under the caution flag, and Donnie Garrett will be advancing into the All-Star race.
So what did you see back there, Seth? Because I was trying to stay on Paglia, who was on the apron at that point.
Yeah, that was actually all in reaction to Mark Paglia. Jim Gloud checking up. I lost sight of who the car was behind him, but when Gloud checked up, the other car did not. That's what spun the 72 car around.
Well, to me, it looked like Doug Williams was low, and Paglia was trying to make a move, and everyone kind of got really jam-packed there. And Paglia had to back off and lightly got bumped from the back end, you know. It's just a last-minute reaction. Paglia went to the apron. Paglia saved it, but just a chain reaction from behind.
There it was again. Yeah, Paglia trying to go for a hole that just wasn't quite there. It was Chris Elliott in the 9 that wasn't able to check up in time. Gets into the back of Jim Gloud, and I think Jim might be okay. Made a little contact there with the left rear into the outside wall, but if you're going to have a spin in the corner and come away with minimal damage, with it being realistic damage here tonight, that 72 might have just gotten the minimalist amount of damage you possibly could. So nice job getting on the brakes, making sure that thing didn't pound the outside wall. I think 72 might be okay here to still be in the running in this second and third segment.
I am curious about something, Seth. Since we're on the final lap, I would assume coming around here, when we get this, we'll get the white flag, I believe, before the segment ends. Are we getting one lucky dog or two lucky dogs, or how is that going to play into this?
That's going to be the interesting thing. We do not have any clarification of that in the format that we were given pre-race. I know that at least 2 drivers will be getting the lucky dog, as follows their Superspeedway rules. Not certain about the case of like the 4 Brian Schilling falling out of the server, if he'll be allowed to go around and get all of his laps back or not. We'll have to wait on that because, again, it's no points on the line, a non-points event, a qualifying event for the All-Star race. I would assume, but we're going to have to wait for clarification, that everybody that lost a lap here under this run would be able to get said laps back and be back in the hunt here for the second segment. Donnie Garrett, you talked about him in the Final 4 in the Tally Challenge. Battling for the championship 1 week ago. Came up just short, came up runner-up there in the championship standings, and kind of a surprise to see him here in this All-Star Open, but makes very quick work of the Open. He'll be crossing the start-finish line, taking the checkered flag, coming down pit road to the garage area. His night will be over.
So I got an update for you for the lucky dog rule.
Okay.
Donnie, I mean, not, why did I say Donnie? I meant Dante told me that lucky dogs only. That's it. That's just going to be the rule here. The first 2 lap down, 710 and Manny D and the 80 machine, those are the only 2 people who are going to be getting the lap back, period.
Okay, so those other drivers that are currently -1 are going to have to rely either on future cautions or on the stage caution, if you will, the segment caution that'll come out between segments 2 and 3. See some drivers coming to pit road here. They realize that they're not going to be winning this segment, so electing to come down pit road now and maybe inherit some track position when this segment comes to a close, as Donnie Garrett is going to be the first driver to advance into the All-Star race. He'll cross the start-finish line and complete the 20th lap of the evening. He is your first advancee into the All-Star race next week through the All-Star Open.
And I'm not taking away anything from any of the other competitors here, but Donnie Garrett, like I said earlier on, part of the Final 4, like, you know, you would have expected with him, as many times as he ran up near the front, to actually be in the All-Star race of in itself, the main event. So, rightfully deserves so for the 77 machine, in my opinion, Seth.
Without a doubt. We're going to be talking with Donnie Garrett in just a few moments. We also know, folks, that if you're noticing, the ticker does have a little bit of an issue. We will be fixing that for the upcoming second and third segments. But Donnie Garrett's going to be pulling onto pit road here this next time around. It will give the race lead over to the 55 of Ken Roberts, who looks like he will be the one to get us back under the green flag when we get to our second segment. Second segment, we're going to have to do our math here. When they take the green flag is when the next 20 lap segment begins. It does not begin from here to lap 40. So we're going to have to see when the green flag flies. We'll count 20 laps from then. Completion of that 20th lap is when the next driver will advance into the All-Star race.
You know, just going back looking at this, Seth, Donnie Garrett had a really good friend of the 055 Ken Roberts sitting there pushing this whole time, working with him. Now, if Ken Roberts tends to find himself in that position and wins the one of these following segments or gets a fan vote or however, you know, to play, and he gets in there along with Donnie, you think they're going to be nice enough to work together to that end? Because I highly doubt they're going to work together that last lap if they both make it that main event.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing right now that I've kind of been wondering about for Ken Roberts, is the fact that he helped to push Donnie Garrett to the point, but yet he he now has lost the driver that he was working with. With Donnie Garrett coming to pit road, he's going to be, obviously parking for the rest of this All-Star Open. So Ken Roberts has kind of lost an ally. Now he's got to find a new dancing partner.
So, should we get the thoughts of the 77 stuff? Are we ready for that?
Absolutely. Let's see if we can talk with Donnie Garrett, our segment 1 advancee.
Let me find old Donnie. There he is. And here is your winner for the first one, Seth, right there.
Hey, Donnie, it's Jess and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I got you guys.
All right, man. Well, you've shown us all season long during the 52nd season of the Tally Challenge that you can run up there at the front. Here tonight, making pretty quick work of qualifying your way into the All-Star race. I mean, kind of hectic, though, behind you. So how much mirror driving were you doing for those 20 laps?
Well, I tell you, we've had a lot of talks through the season, and like I said, I don't have no teammates. But hey, I tell you what, I had Ken Roberts tonight. I had Rodney Sullins, and Milt, and these guys are starting to work with me. And I had Ken behind me there, so I was pretty happy and just riding along. And we stayed in communication and took first and second there. And I tell you what, better look out next season for me.
You look like your car could handle wherever you wanted it to go. We saw you up near the front after the unfortunate falling out of Brian Schilling, leading a lot of these laps, and then coming up on these drivers right after pit stops, going left and just going right past them, not even worried about making a move on them or anything, go from the high side or low side. You just stayed on that high side and just went right on by him, Donnie. But I'm just curious. We know you can get it done on straightaways and drafting up and everything else, because we saw that here this evening. But how was pit road? Because we saw a lot of issues with pit road already.
Yeah, so for me, I attack pit road. I'm one of the fastest guys to get into pit road, and I didn't have nobody in front of me, so I was able to do my normal entry into pit road, and that's where I pulled away from them. I actually slowed down a little bit to let Ken catch me when I come off of pit road. Just because I wanted to get us back together, because we'd be faster than just being by myself. So I actually had to slow down a little bit.
Well, Donnie, congratulations on the win here in segment 1. You get to now kind of put your feet up and watch what happens here for the rest of this All-Star Open. So we look forward to seeing what you're able to bring to the table next week in the All-Star race. Best of luck to you there.
Yeah, thank you, guys. We're going to miss you guys next season, man. You guys did such a great job, and man, hopefully we can put this thing back together at some point, man. It just whatever we can do to do it. Let's talk, and like I said, we really appreciate it.
Donnie Garrett, he's your segment 1 winner, advancing into the All-Star race. We are now underway here in segment 2. The green flag flew at the start of lap 23. And so therefore we are going to be running to the completion of lap 43 here in this one. We're actually going to bring up the technical thing one more time real quickly here and try and keep you abreast of what the action is going on. We're having some connection problems here, it appears, on our end, so we'll try and get back in real quickly here, have that settled out here, as Chris Elliott was in a pretty spirited battle for the race lead. Chris Elliott, he restarted on the leader side, but Zach Fremont, he got his stuff set up, organized, ready to go. And remember what we heard from Donnie, how he was working with Rodney Sullins. So Rodney Sullins, he's the one to watch. And remember, we saw Rodney get a little bit of damage earlier, but Rodney's sitting there running in second. Zach Fremont is leading this race right now. Brian Wolf trying to clear Chris Elliott on the high side for third. Chris Elliott still battling on that inside line. But hey, so we saw Zach Fremont lap down right there. He's back in the thick of this. He's leading this thing. Like we got everything settled out. Ticker's even working here, folks. So apologies for all that took place, as now you see it on your screen. Fremont, Rodney Sullins, Brian Wolf, Mark Paglia, the top 4 on that outside line. Now, the 2 drivers, I believe you mentioned, Jess, that got the lucky dog here under this caution were Manny D and Milt Surratt. So 14 drivers on the lead lap right now. And actually, we only have 3 lap down. Wayne Krebnow, Gary Hurst, and Brian Schilling at the moment, and we have 2 retirees, Ken Roberts and Bob Dixon. I don't know what happened to Ken Roberts, unless Ken Roberts is allowed to be transferred, and I'm not really sure about what the deal was with that. But
I mean, hey, like we said though, Zach Freeman, remember him and Manny D? They were at the back. They were going the lap down and everything else. They were right there at the tail end of that when the pit stop cycle started. Remember? And Freeman was up there leading, and Manny D, he's just sitting back here riding, relaxing, and chilling.
And I'm going to agree with you. Obviously, we were looking at the format that was posted for the league during this week about it saying that only the top driver in each segment advancing. I think you're right. I think that the 055 of Ken Roberts also advanced, and I think maybe Bob Dixon, who finished third in that segment, also advanced, because all three of those drivers actually came down pit road and parked their machines.
I will get a clarification on that.
Yes, please do, because I think that is the case. Just want to make sure we're not giving the incorrect information here. As Zach Freeman continues to show the way, Rodney Sullins, Brian Wolf, Mark Paglia still clear for first through fourth. Right now, Glenn Harris trying to edge ahead of Doug Woolley. That's a battle for the fifth position, and it got awfully close there going into turn 3.
Okay, clarification rule is that the top 3 on each segment will advance.
Okay, there you go. So congratulations to Ken Roberts and Bob Dixon. We'll actually see if we can talk with them during the course of this segment as well, as they are also going to be, like Donnie Garrett, able to observe the remainder of this. It makes sense to me now, Jess, the fact that Ken Roberts didn't make any move on Donnie Garrett on that final run, or at least nothing really aggressive, realizing that even finishing second place, he was going to be advancing into the All-Star race.
Yeah, and you know what? We do have Ken Roberts, so let me see if I can get a hold of Ken Roberts for us.
All right, let's do that.
Here's Ken Roberts.
Hey, Ken, it's Justin Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I don't know if he's there right now, Seth.
He might not be there.
Might be okay at the moment. Let's see. Who was the other one? Bob Dixon, you said?
Bob Dixon, yeah, the 143.
Bob Dixon, you live over there?
Yeah, man, give me just 1 second.
All right, take your time there, Bob, as we continue to watch the battle right now for 6th position. Cy Jones and Doug Woolley. Chris Elliott down the inside, Gary Hurst on the outside. Hurst, Pribnow, and Schilling, the only 3 drivers in this group that currently are off the lead lap. Would love to see the next stage caution come out to be able to get one of the 2 free pass positions, and there is Schilling now going to fall a second lap down in the 4.
And you notice how Doug Woolley's down here on this bottom. He's been working this bottom, trying to get something going. It's not really going anywhere, but he's determined to try to make it. Looks like he makes up a little bit, and then they just fall back just slightly a little bit. So with Chris Elliott behind him, I don't know. I mean, we were talking about it earlier about how you want to be on this bottom right before pit cycle start, but that high side is coming into effect right now.
Definitely, as Cy Jones, Glenn Harris have all been able to make it work, and I think we actually do have Bob Dixon now. So,
yes, we do.
So, Bob, I mean, congratulations first off at advancing into the All-Star race here in this first segment, making it a pretty easy night for you, but you're kind of back in a hornet's nest there with 10 to go.
Oh, absolutely. And I was watching it too. My eyes were in the mirror a lot. But I saw the way Donnie and Ken was running, and what cinched it up for me was that Glenn in the 08 car decided to move up and get in the high line to go around us, and it didn't work. I sucked right in behind Ken again, or excuse me, Glenn in the 08, Glenn Harris. And he opened up the 3rd spot for me, and I stuck like glue to the other 2 in front of me, and we made it easy. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you seem like you enjoyed yourself up there tonight, Bob. I mean, how was this compared to normal Thursday night for you? How did it feel, like, different-wise, attacking pit road, going back out there with the pack as we see pit stops beginning right now for the cycle?
Well, I've been practicing my pitting at Tally here, and I had an excellent pit stop and, came out with the first 3 cars. But typically here, I did not get freight trained. I was amongst a line of cars that I did not get freight trained. And I typically get freight train on a normal Thursday night, but we're still working with that.
Don't you usually pit a lap earlier than normal, like with Cy Jones and everyone normally?
Did you say pit?
I thought you normally there's been a couple of times I thought I've seen you be one of the first ones to hit pit road though, Bob. This time you didn't do that.
Oh, we
Yeah.
got a wreck. Sorry to cut you guys off. Cy
Uh-oh,
Jones
go
just
ahead.
got hooked trying to get onto pit lane. He's collected up. I believe that was Brian Schilling and Wayne Pribb. Now caution is going to fly.
Sorry to cut you off like that, Bob.
All right. Yeah, I like to pit. I like to pit a little bit early, at least one lap. And it's paid off before, and it hasn't paid off. You know, it's 50-50 throw. Just roll the dice and go for it.
Well, you certainly rolled the dice tonight, and it paid off for you. And like we said, congratulations for being one of the top three and being put in the main event. So we will see you at the main event on, I believe it's next week, won't we, sir? Next
Yes,
week?
indeed, next Thursday night. So best of luck to you there, Bob. Congrats on a job well done here tonight. Put your feet up. Enjoy the rest of this All-Star Open.
Yep, I'm really stoked. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the job you do.
Yep.
Halfway through this second segment, and a big wreck there. Cy
I didn't
Jones
see
trying
that.
to get onto pit road and got hooked from behind back up into traffic. Brian Schilling was one of the drivers that got involved. I believe Wayne Pribb now got a little piece of it as well.
Was
Going
it-
back looking at the replay, but
What was it? Was it the case of I'm pitting, you're not pitting, and just mistake, or
I think
trying to
it
get in
was-
line?
I think it was a disagreement of braking zone coming into pit lane. The 7 car just kind of got run over.
I mean, I didn't see that one. I was actually focused on another vehicle at that moment, so I do apologize for not catching that one.
Now we'll go back and see what happened here. It was Doug Woolley in the 99 that was actually behind Cy Jones. This was the second group that was coming to pit lane. Zach Fremount Company had pitted the lap before, and you just see right there, unfortunately for Cy Jones, he gets hooked in the right rear quarter panel. That sends him right back up the track. Nowhere for Wayne Pribb now or the 4 of Brian Schilling to be able to go. Evening started real great for Brian Schilling. He was on point to start off this race, but then connection issues, falling a lap down early and then losing a second lap under green flag conditions here in the second segment, then getting caught up in this wreck here. It has just not gone the way of a 2-time Tally Challenge champion.
And it was posted in chat. Incident was on the unfortunate issue of number 99 of Doug Woolley this time, Seth, and lucky dogs from what I'm looking at. The 00 Wayne Pribb now and the 914 of Gary Hurst.
That should leave us with 16 drivers on the lead lap. Brian Schilling will be the only driver currently -1. He'll actually be -2 when we go back green flag racing.
And with all that damage that he sustained off of that one, I'd be really questioning his ability to finish the race and actually get on the lead lap next to him on a charge with the being realistic damage. No offense to the guy. Brian Schilling's one of the top-notch drivers here at the Talladega Challenge, and to see the fact that he has to, go out of the server and come back in, connection issues, and then get caught up in this, that's just so unfortunate for him.
Definitely is. I believe Ken Roberts is still AFK. We'll see if we can maybe talk with him after the second segment is over. I'll tell you, 2 drivers that did not want to see this caution come out, though, Jess. Cy Jones obviously did not want to be the caution, but I bet he didn't want to see the caution either, and Andre Charest. Because bear in mind, if you pit under the caution in these segments, it doesn't count as that 2-tire green flag stop. They're the only 2 drivers so far in segment 2 that have not come to pit road under green. They're gonna have to make a pit stop at some point between now and the end of segment 2.
Earlier I was cycling, and we only see Cy usually stay up front. I go out an extra lap, lead a lap, but it was really good to see that 7 machine running up near the front at this point. Before that yellow happened, before the incident happened. I mean, I was trying to figure out what was going on, Seth, and apparently caution incident played a little bit of a game changer here.
Definitely did. It's going to make things very interesting for this final sprint to the finish of segment 2. That first group that came down pit road was led by Zach Freeman, but he came out 5th of that group afterwards. Mark Paglia came out ahead of him, as did Brian Wolf, Glenn Harris, and Rodney Sullins. So Freeman's actually lost 5 spots from where he was when we started the second segment. He'll be restarting, it looks like, in the 6th position. See if he can work his way back up to the front.
Seth, when you look at the replay of the 7 machine being involved in the incident a little bit, do you think Cy got any damage off of it?
I think he definitely got damage, at least on the passenger side door. I don't know just how much of an impact it was to the front end of the machine, but he definitely took a shot there from the number 4 of Brian Schilling.
So no way of knowing until he gets on track and starts running full speed if it's going to hinder him or not.
Exactly. You see there the 00 of Wayne Pribnow to the outside. He's going to get one of the lucky dog positions. You'll probably see the 914 of Gary Hirsch jump up there as well. There he is on the top side. So both these drivers will be getting their laps back, which means that 16 of the 17 that are still here in this All-Star Open will be on the same lap as the leader. And the 75 of Andre Charest is going to come down pit road here.
You know,
And he's still going to have to pit under green flag conditions. He has not done that yet here in segment 2.
I'm sitting here looking at the field, and I might be calling kettle black early, which if I'm jinxing this, I do apologize on this, but what a nice story it would be for that 28 machine to come back and do something with this Open here and becoming the main event. What do you think about that, Seth?
Yeah, Mark Paglia, of course, had, I think, the first 3 races of the Tally Challenge this past season that he was not able to partake, and his RTG brethren put that 28 in the field each and every week, taking turns to make sure it was on the grid. And Paglia actually found a hot streak near the end of the season as well, had a number of top 5 finishes there in the last 3 or 4 races on the year. So you're right, certainly would be a feel-good story for Mark Paglia if he were able to advance his way here into the All-Star race.
And another feel-good story, if you want to look at it, is the 56 of Jake Ravella. He made it into the playoffs, and he was pretty much a top-notch contender going in, because no one really expected Ravella to stay up there as long as he did, because he ran into a small bit of bad luck, but he stayed up there for most of the season.
Yeah, Jack Ravella advanced into the round of 8 in what was his playoffs debut in the Tally Challenge in this last season of the RTG Tally Challenge series. So yeah, there's a lot of feel-good stories that would take place here, no doubt about that. Now I'm going to assume that since 3 drivers advanced the top 3 in segment 1, that 3 drivers will also advance here in segment 2. And again, we are racing till the conclusion of lap 43. If you're keeping an eye on our ticker on the top left, that will be the conclusion of segment 2, since we went green for segment 2 on lap 23. So theoretically, when they hit the line, it will be 7 laps to go here in the second segment of the All-Star Open.
Yep, and Paglia ready to get us back underway here. And, we got Brian Wolf on that outside, but one of these contenders back there I'm looking at, Seth, I'm curious to see what Rodney Sullins in that 38 machine is going to do. He had a little bit of damage earlier, but he found himself right up near the front of that, so it looks like he's all right. I wonder what he's going to be able to pull off here when we go back to green in just a moment.
Got spun during his first pit stop cycle under green in the first segment. Made little contact with the outside wall with the rear end of his car, but looked like that car is still up to speed. Green flag back in the air. 7 laps to go here in segment 2.
Doug Woolley with a huge run on Cy Jones. Chris Elliott back there going to the bottom. Looks like everyone's going to the bottom early, Seth. I don't know what advantage that's going to give you, because that high side, if they get back up there, that high side's going to come into effect.
Well, the high side's not formed right now. Whoa! Glenn Harris trying to tuck up in front of Brian Wolf and wasn't quite clear off the second corner. You've only got Brian Wolf and Rodney Sullins trying to get the top side going. So right now the numbers are on the inside line as Paglia to the point, Harris to second, and Zach Freeman just picked up 2 spots there in the course of half a lap.
Yeah, they're getting racing back here. Cy Jones, they're boiling on the bottom. Looks like they're coming into pit road to make that pit stop now, Seth.
That's a number of drivers
Oh,
coming in.
Chris Elliott around. A little bit of contact with Jason Scheck, but not too much. Doesn't look like that's anything to be concerned about damage-wise, but tough break for Chris Elliott coming on the pit road, Seth.
Now, here's the thing that I'm wondering. When that wreck took place and that caution came out, Cy Jones was the leader. He was the car in front. I'm wondering if a number of these drivers that are coming to pit road now didn't hit the commitment line when the caution came out, and so like Cy Jones and Audrey Charest, they still haven't made a pit stop under green. That's why they're on pit road now.
Well, I mean, they have to, otherwise they forfeit their position, correct?
Yeah, so I didn't even think about the fact that a number of those guys in that group had not yet hit the commitment line. Here comes Crivello now to pit lane as well in the 56.
Well,
look at this. 3 wide, almost 2 rows deep here. Zach Freemel, Rodney Sullivan's working together. High, wide, and handsome on the top side.
And who says we need a full field to actually have 3 wide racing to make it exciting, Seth?
Oh my goodness, these guys right now, they are leaning on each other too. Manny D almost came up into the side of Mark Paglia. Brian Wolf pinching the 710 down, and look at that top side. There's 4 of them lined up. You got Freemel, Sullins, that's Milt Surratt and Gary Hurst there as well. That 6 cars is coming with a big bunch of momentum into turn 3.
They're coming up on a lap car. Now, will this lap car cause any issues with that high side is what I'm wondering here.
That's Chris Elliott in the 9 after his issues trying to get onto pit road just moments ago. Where is he going to migrate? He'll go up to the top side. Let this lead group continue to battle it out. Again, remember though, realistic damage. Don't tear up your car just in case you finish outside of the top 3. You still want that thing in one piece for the 3rd and final segment as Glenn Harris out in front showing the way with less than 4 to go.
And they're side by side, 3 rows, 4 rows deep behind here. Side by side, Seth. I don't know. Looks like Glenn Harris wants to be the Pied Piper. He's going to block that top side. Zach Freemel shoving him. But now the question is, what's Glenn Harris going to do? It looks like he's going to hold that middle line so he can play the bottom and the high side. But sooner or later, one line is going to have to give.
Might be a little too low there coming out of turn 4. He left the middle and the outside line open for both Zach Freemel and Mark Paglia. Now Paglia tucks back in line. Now he jumps up, forces Freemel up the track.
Wolf, 3 wide per second.
No help down there, though. I don't think he's going to be able to get alongside the 28 going into turn 1. Now 3 wide with Manny D, and they almost make contact.
Pushing up off the corner. Brian Wolf, a little bit of contact with Manny D in the 710 machine.
Oh, no! Manny D into Rodney Sullins. Gary Hurst and Milt Surratt cautions out. I think this is racing back to the end of this segment.
Glenn Harris at the top, Zach Freemel, Brian Wolf, all top 3. Mark Paglia trying to force himself to get right behind Zach Freemel as they're starting to catch these lap machines, which just made pit stops, so they're going to be saved by this caution. But the top 3 right now look like to be Glenn Harris, Zach Freemel, and Mark Paglia as they come back to the line to take the yellow.
Freemel, oh, gets into the back of Glenn Harris coming to the start-finish line. Nice save there by Harris, as it will indeed be the 0, 8, 6, and 28, the top 3 crossing the start-finish line, and that would have theoretically been 2 laps to go here in the 2nd segment. I don't think we're getting back green. I think this 2nd segment ends under yellow.
I hate how that just happened for Rodney Sullivan's, Manny D, and the 80 machines. That was such a good run these guys were having. They were making it really exciting. And we remember, like I said, we don't have to have a full field to make this exciting. This is just the open. These are only 20 drivers racing in the open here. And remember, the All-Star main event is going to be Grant Wesley. You're going to have Bob Seminara. You're going to have the Spirito. You're going to have Chuck McClure. You're going to have a lot more of these drivers like Tim Nosker. A lot of aggressiveness, and we're just barely seeing little hints of what to expect next week.
Tell you what though, Rodney Sullins must have a golden horseshoe. He didn't hit the inside wall at all in that spin. Would have gotten some right side damage with being pinned into the outside wall off of turn 2, but I think he still might be okay. Gary Hurst made a little contact with the inside wall. Manny D not so lucky. You saw there at the tail end of that replay how he backed it hard in the inside wall, and he has actually taken his car back behind the wall to the garage area. So Manny D looks like will not be racing his way in to the All-Star race here tonight.
Well, now, remember, there's still the admin vote that could possibly
That's why
come
I said
into play.
racing in. That's why I said racing. There's still a shot. Glenn Harris going to cross the line. This would be the proverbial checkered flag here for the second segment. So he, along with Zach Freemelt and Mark Paglia, are now going to be 3 advancees into the All-Star race, along with the drivers that transferred from the first segment, Donnie Garrett, Ken Roberts, and Bob Dixon. We've still got one more segment left to run here tonight. Still some more transfer spots available.
From what I'm looking at, I believe the 9 and the 4, Brian Schilling and Chris Elliott, lucky dogs.
It'll be interesting to see if Brian Schilling, what kind of a comeback he can mount. His issues start at the very drop of the green flag. Has spent most of this All-Star Open off the lead lap. And of course, Chris Elliott, that's going to help him after he had that issue getting onto pit road during a green flag pit stop in the midway portion of segment 2. So it looks like all drivers that are still out there, be, I believe, 13 in total, will all be on the lead lap, battling for the final opportunities to race their way into the All-Star race, which, of course, folks, be sure to tune into that next Thursday night. Green flag to fly at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you're going to see some of the best of Superspeedway racing going at it for no points, but for some good old bragging rights.
Yeah, I got wrecked out last season, so I don't remember who won the event. Who won that event last season? Do you remember?
Off the top of my head, I don't.
I believe we ran the wasn't it Lawrence Cup 98?
It was. I have recurring nightmares of the FRN car flipping in the infield grass over in turn 1.
Will you leave me alone? But still, though, they're coming down the pit road to end the segment, and some of these drivers are coming into the pit. Glenn Harris, Zach Freemelt, and the 28 machine of Mark Paglia will retire, and we will get some words from the top 3 finishers. And you got to admit that this is going to be a feel-good story for Glenn Harris, who finally finds that #1 position on a broadcast that he has been looking for so long. And think about this. You got Mark Paglia, really good feel-good story to be main eventing up in the All-Star race next week. And then, hey, we decided to give Zach Freemelt the chance to race and put me in the broadcast booth. And look what he does. He comes home and actually transfers in. So there you go.
Absolutely. So he'll get a shot of being able to be in the All-Star race, as I think Brian Wolf, well, I thought Brian Wolf was going to inherit the lead, but Doug Woolley and Jeff Cravella with a little strategy, so they may end up being the front row when we go back green flag racing here.
So who do you want? Who would you like up here?
The burning question I want to ask, because we really didn't get to see a lot of it in the Tally Challenge, was Glenn Harris out there blocking lanes, and he did a pretty doggone good job there on those final couple of laps. I want to talk with Glenn Harris first.
Okay, let me find Mr. Harris. He should be here somewhere. There he is. Alright, so Glenn Harris is all yours, buddy boy, with the Krispy Kreme machine.
Hey Glenn, it's Justin Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
10-4 Seth, how y'all doing?
Well, man, I wish we had a pulse rate monitor on you there for those final couple of laps, because, man, you channeled your inner Dale Jr. there, blocking both lanes as they were coming to you. How did it feel being out in front, and just how nervous were you knowing we were coming to the end of that segment with transfer spots on the line?
Well, I was probably bumping up about 150 there if you'd had a monitor, but it was pretty tense. I knew that the guys could get a run at any time, and I was just trying to, keep a line that would hold them back there.
Well, Glenn, now you've got yourself locked into the All-Star race. Was there anything from the racing that took place here tonight that you're going to be able to carry over as far as strategy, knowing that there were no points on the line here tonight, and the same scenario will apply next week in the All-Star race?
Well, just find a good drafting partner, pick a smooth and steady line, and try to keep it out of trouble.
Well, best of luck to you, Glenn. Congratulations on advancing into the All-Star Open. You gave it a heck of a show out there, and now you can let that pulse rate kind of lower down there now, because job well done, and you get to be able to observe this final segment.
All right, thank you, Seth. I'd like to give a shout-out to my granddaughter, Ellie. Don't know if she's watching, but dedicate this to her.
That's Glenn Harris. He wins the second segment of the All-Star Open and will be advancing into the All-Star race next week. Lights out top the pace car. We got the 1 to green signal. Jim Gloud and Ronnie Sullins actually deciding to stay out under this caution. They, of course, had just been to pit road about 5 laps before the second segment came to a close, so really no need to come down pit road again. They will inherit the front row with Doug Woolley, Jeff Crivello, and Brian Wolf, the top 5. Let's see it before we go green if we can get our second place finisher from the second segment, Zach Freemo.
All right.
Hey, Zach, it's Justin Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you guys. What's going on?
It is so strange to be talking to you on the other end of the mic with you in the car and me up in the booth. But, man, job well done here tonight. You advance into the All-Star race. So now, I hate to say it, but it just gets harder from here because you got the qualifying out of the way. Now the big boys race next week.
No.
What's your strategy there?
It sounds and looks harder than it actually is. I wanted that win. I wanted that segment win real bad there, but we didn't quite make it there, and my heart broke a little bit when I saw Rodney wreck up behind me. But I'll tell you what, this Red Bull number 6 car, it's quick, man. It's bad fast, and it's actually got me more excited for next week than what I was coming into tonight. So it was a lot of fun.
Are you looking forward to run that Red Bull machine next season now that you've actually got a good run going with it already now, Zach?
I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna answer your question with a question of my own. Because if the answer is yes, then that is the answer. Is it as good looking and as it is fast?
Oh, definitely. I think your paint scheme got the first "I like it" comment of the broadcast.
Thank
so
you.
if
Thank
that
you.
says anything.
Hey, at least it wasn't an FRN car, right?
Yeah, man, it's just as good. But hey, guys, really appreciate your guys' broadcasts, and I know you guys got to get back to it because they're coming back here to green. But thanks, RTG. Thanks, all the drivers, owners, admins, the whole 9 yards. Really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun, a lot of talent out here. So I can't wait to talk to you guys again next week. I'm calling my shot now.
Sounds good. Zach Freemow advancing into the All-Star race, second in the second segment as the green flag back in the air here. Green flag came out with 21 laps to go, but we are now racing to the conclusion. Lap 66 is the end of this race. So that little added extra lap there, Jess, I got to wonder how that's going to come into play with strategy.
Now, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at this field, and I'm still in awe as we see the now I was just about to comment how the 38 had the lead and was just holding it for a little bit, but now everyone's on that inside line freight train. 72 machine going to put that 38 3 wide, and Sullins has nobody, no help. Sucker hole going to the back, Seth.
Gotta wonder about the damage he got there of that wreck on the back straightaway at the end of segment 2, if maybe there's just something a little further underlying in terms of the speed he lost than we originally thought, as he had no friends, as you mentioned, just dropped like a rock to the back of the field. Doug Woolley now out to the point. Brian Wolf into second. Wayne Pribnow and Gary Hurst now the top 4. I mean, you talk about some comeback stories here. Hurst was a lap down in this race back in segment 1. Got the lucky dog. Now he's up here trying to fight for a transfer spot.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking at. Look who's creeping in this picture in that Ford machine back here.
Brian Schilling, the pole sitter, spent
He
most
was
of this
2 laps
entire
down.
race off the lead lap.
But Seth, you notice how everyone's on that bottom now. They just completely abandoned that high side. They're all on that bottom, and I'm just wondering how long is it going to do before they start to get real racing, because this is the third and final segment, correct?
This is the third and final segment.
The question is, what lap is go time? Or are you just going to go up to the front? You're going to ride? You're going to block every single lap? Like, where would you want to be at this point as we see a second line starting to form with Scheck and Gloud at the top?
Well, I think maybe to answer your question, I think that they're all running the bottom for the time being, because remember, there is at least one more green flag pit stop they're going to have to make here in this segment. So why not run down the inside line, not have yourself racing double file, and maybe have a rather awkward formation trying to come down pit road? I think things will really pick up once we have the settle out from the green flag pit stop as to when you start making those moves for this this final segment win.
Well, I don't mean to be the personally, but I tend to disagree with you on this. I think it's a good idea to go to the high side and start moving forward for track position when pit stops actually do occur. That would put you in a better position when you come out of pit road.
Well, Jim Glaude feels the same way. He and Jason Scheck gonna jump up to the outside line, along with Cy Jones and Brian Schilling. That's some pretty fast machines up there formulating that line. You gotta wonder if the top 3 or 4, they're gonna notice that line coming, and if somebody else is gonna jump out there and add to the numbers. Wayne Pribnow took a look, and then he tucked back in line.
I'm noticing the past couple laps from looking from the back to the front, from way back there up to the front here, the top 3 were kind of running that middle line, especially Doug Woolley and Brian Wolf. Like they see what's going on and they're ready and prepared to jump up there. But the question is Brian Wolf going to go with Doug, or is he going to go for it himself real quickly to actually gain that advantage? We're going to find out in a moment as Jim's right there on the outside of the 00 of Wayne Pribnow.
Now, we have to remember as well that Jim Glaude and I believe it was Rodney Sullins, they stayed out under the caution period between segments 2 and 3. So they're going to be about a lap or 2 shorter on fuel than everybody else. We'll see if everybody else comes down pit road within their window of when they would have to pit, so that way they don't lose out on track position. But that outside line is coming, and in a hurry. Jim Glaude shoved to the front by Jason Scheck.
You notice Wayne Pribnow is going a little bit lower than where Brian Wolf wants to run, it seems like. I've noticed that for the past couple laps. The 00 is just a little bit lower, and there's a little bit of a gap between the 29 and the 00 machine. So they're not really formed up.
Yeah, in the case of Wayne Pribnow, he's also almost gotten down on the apron a couple times with that the left side tires, so that has really slowed up that inside line. That time, those 3 on the inside line were pretty lined up nose to tail, bumper to bumper, and that's going to push Doug Woolley back alongside Jim Glaude for the time being. Hopefully these guys can keep this together. I want to see if we can quickly get our 3rd place finisher in here for an interview from segment 2. See if we can talk with Mark Hagley here.
Let me see if Mr. Hagley is available here, so I'm going to bring him in. Mark, are you there?
Sure am.
There he is, huh?
Well, Mark, first off, congratulations on advancing into the All-Star race here tonight. I mean, we see you week after week in the Tally Challenge, how you're always up there at the front. Solid outing here tonight. You're locked into the main feature next week, so what's the plan now?
Oh!
Wow.
Just try to find somebody to work with and, stay clean, I think. This is the All-Star race, so you got all the cream of the crop out there, and I just don't want to do anything stupid. I don't want to embarrass myself. I just want to be competitive and race clean.
You got to be really happy, Mark. I mean, there's such a really feel-good comeback for you. Missing out the first few races of the season and being able to come back, be in the open, and be able to advance to the main event for the next season again. I mean, you really got to have a real feel-good about how things worked out for you in this. I mean, Are we looking at a resurgence of Mark Hagley coming back to where you were at top form again?
I think so. That's my plan in my mind is just don't be, too aggressive and don't, think that I'm going to win every race. I just want to get up there in the top 4 or 5, be consistent. I think it worked well for Donnie Garrett this past season, and that's kind of what I want to model myself. What he did is just be consistent, be up in the front. And I think I've done that pretty much almost every race this past season, but I just couldn't finish the drill. It's just towards the end I always get mixed up in something bad.
It's really, really difficult to get track position and stay there, especially with how everyone wants to race. And looking at how these guys are, I mean, I'm just wondering. We saw the high side, the middle of the high side come into play early in the segment 1, segment 2, segment 3. It looked like the bottom was where you wanted to be at. So, any ideas here about how you might approach the main event? Like, would you prefer to be on the bottom, the middle, high side, or just be where everyone's going at?
I think in the middle of the race, as it's just you're logging the laps, I think I'd rather be in the middle. But when we get towards the end, I like the high line. I really don't like being on the low line at all. For me, it just you get trapped down there. You don't have nowhere to go. You can't make any moves. So if you're in the middle, you got a little wiggle room to make a pass here and there. But on the top side, I think if you get some cars together, you can really do some damage up there at the top.
No, Mark, obviously we didn't see you advance in the first segment. You had to rely on the second segment. And a thing that we noticed that's entirely different from what the Tally Challenge drivers were used to coming into this race, 3 times wear and realistic damage as opposed to the moderate that was run during the season. Did that change your approach to this All-Star Open in any way?
Yeah, it did. As you probably saw towards the end of that segment too, everybody was starting to get a little bit of a lane bullying going on, and I didn't want to get mixed up into it too bad, because even if I didn't make the top 3, I wanted to make sure I got into this last segment. So, the realistic damage piece was on my mind the whole time, and as you probably saw, that everybody was trying to squeeze in that middle line, and I just didn't want to get caught up in anything. So I was trying to give room where I could, but I also was going to try to be a little bit more aggressive towards the end so I can get that 3rd place.
Mark, I'm really curious about one thing here. You're talking about how people are bullying with the lanes, etc., like we've seen a couple times this past season, the Tally Challenge. Coming into pit road, we've seen a lot of incidents happen tonight. So I'm curious, how aggressive was it from the first segment to the second segment coming into pit road? Did the intensity ramp up of how people were approaching it, or did you not notice any difference?
I didn't really notice that much of a difference. I think when I went in with Zach and the other 2 guys, we pitted real clean, and that seemed to work out. And then the caution came out, so which put me up front with the other group. But I didn't notice that much difference of aggressiveness. But I do want to say in that first segment, I was qualified 3rd. I was right behind Brian Schilling, and in the beginning of the race, I thought the 2 of us could get up in that middle lane in front, and then he had that connection issue, and he just blinked out, and I was sitting by myself in the bottom lane. But I think if Brian and I could have hooked up, we could have done pretty well in that first segment.
Well, Mark, congratulations once again on advancing into the All-Star race. We're looking forward to seeing how you do next Thursday night. Job well done here tonight, though, and we'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening. So congratulations, and good luck next week in that All-Star race. We look forward to calling that and seeing if maybe you can pull out the victory there.
Well, thanks, Seth. You and Jessica do a great job, and I can't say enough about how you and Zach, what you've done over the last couple of seasons for the Tally Challenge. That was, it's always a thrill to watch it the next day, and you guys do such a good job. It's almost like professionals out there. In fact, I think I'd rather see you guys on TV than some of the people that we have. But thanks again.
That's
Mark. We'll look forward to seeing you next week, Mark. Good luck next week.
Thank you.
And as we had that interview, you saw green flag pit stops took place there. Wayne Pribb now stayed out an extra lap, came to pit road by himself. 1 driver busted for speeding, Chris Elliott in the 9. So barring a caution coming out and saving him, that effectively takes him out of the opportunity of winning this 3rd and final segment. It's Jim Glaude out in front. Rodney Sullins, we should call this the miracle machine, I think, in that 38 car, because he's been wrecked twice. Up here in 2nd place, he's got Brian Wolf and Jeff Crivello as well in this 4-car group as we're closing in on 8 laps to go.
Well, remember what we're looking at here. You got Rodney Sullins, like you're saying, up here in this pack, correct, Seth?
Yep.
But you also got to remember, who won segment 1? Donnie Garrett.
Yep.
And who pushed Donnie Garrett? Ken Roberts. Who was working well with Donnie Garrett? Ken Roberts and Rodney Sullins. Mm-hmm. You put Rodney Sullins there, you got Ken Roberts and Donnie. Donnie's going to have some friends with that main event if he needs them.
Well, it's interesting, too, you bring that up, because not only did Rodney Sullins work with Ken Roberts and Donnie Garrett back in segment 1, he was a key player into pushing Zach Freemau up into a transfer spot back in segment 2 before he got caught up in that incident off of turn 2. So Rodney Sullins has been quite a pusher here tonight for drivers that have already transferred their way in.
Everyone might be wanting to hook up with that 038 before the night's over.
And this makes a very interesting scenario here as well, because if it is 3 drivers that transfer here in this 3rd and final segment, Jeff Crivello right there, he's got to start making some moves because he's the first man out.
I don't see Brian Wolf trying to do anything else. I mean, you want to stay on that middle line because that's where everything's going to be at. I mean, the only thing Crivello can really hope for here is for the first and second driver to go side by side, but I don't really think that's going to happen. I think Rodney's perfectly content running second right now as long as he's going to be one of the three to make it in. I mean, Crivello's got a little bit ways back to find his next friend, which would be the Ford machine of Brian Schilling, who's running fifth, which is a great comeback for that Ford machine side.
And they might not have to wait long. There are 5 drivers in this group, and that last time by, the group led by Brian Schilling was half a second faster than the top 4. We'll see about this time by if they gain anything, but they look like they are visibly closing up the gap. That time, they were 0.8 of a second faster than the top 4, so they are coming.
Crivello keeps darting out, trying to make a move, and believe it or not, even though there's a big gap, that actually does hurt that lead group because that's going to allow the side-by-side racing to take place, and this second group is going to slowly reel them in, which we have been seeing lap after lap, Seth, and it doesn't look like much, but looks like I would say that Schilling is probably right there in striking distance now.
He is absolutely in striking distance. I think maybe a couple more car links, he'll actually be in the draft, get the toe off the back of that 56. That time by, they ran a full second
Seth, is the
faster than the top 4.
machine damaged?
I don't know.
I thought, well, he was part of that wreck with Sullins, wasn't he?
He was. Well, he and Milt Surratt actually were latched on to these 3. I think what might have happened here, and I think this might be aerodynamics that came into play, as soon as the 4 caught the draft of that lead group, he, the 31, the 99, started picking up speed, and I think that's what kind of left the 75 and the 80 in the dust.
They're saying, no, we're not going to go with you, Crivello. And Schilling's going for it. Sullivan's trying to figure out which line he wants. So we're going to go 3 wide per second. Brian Wolf slides up. Sullivan's back in the middle here. I don't know what's going to happen. Seth Schilling wants to take this lead, and that's a great comeback for that Ford machine already.
No doubt about it. His night, turn 1, lap 1, started off horrible. And now he might be looking on transferring into the All-Star race. 66 laps later, look at Crivello darting down to the inside 3 wide with Jim Gloud and Doug Woolley.
They keep doing this.
Contact.
They keep doing this. It's going to be causing more of a moment where they might have a caution. If they have a caution and it ends under caution, they're not going to have a chance to go back green because we're already right here coming to lap 64, Seth. So if it's a caution, it's over.
It is. We've had our first 2 segments end under the yellow flag prematurely. The first caution came out with 2 to go in the first segment, and the second caution came out with 3 laps to go in the second segment.
Oh, I really feel so bad for that 038. You feel for him. He was right there, and now he had nobody to work with him, and he dropped way to the back again behind this group. So he's got to try to figure out what on earth does he got to do to actually be able to make it. He only needs to finish 3rd or higher. I'm just wondering, Seth, you think he's got a shot with how racy they might get in a moment?
The thing I've learned about super speedways, especially here at Talladega, is never give up. I've seen drivers at Daytona and Talladega over on the iRacing side that were 9th crossing the line on the white flag, and they come around to take the checkers on the following lap. So Rodney Sullivan's not out of it just yet, even though he runs about 20 car lengths behind these top 6. Only 50% of this lead group is going to transfer their way into the All-Star race through this 3rd and final segment.
And remember, if you think this is exciting, wait till next week.
Oh yeah, we are going to have ourselves a star-studded field, bragging rights on the line in the All-Star race. This is just the qualifying races to get into the big show.
Absolutely, and remember, I'm not sure how many people are going to be in the All-Star race itself, Seth, but if it's anything like this, it's going to be really, really exciting because this has been exciting all evening long. And now we see Crivello going to the inside of Doug Woolley and Brian Wolf trying to make something happen in front of J6, but no, Schilling sees it. Schilling knows it's there. He's throwing the block left and right. White flags out. Coming off turn 2, Seth. It's all up to who is going to make that move. They want 3rd. They got to have 3rd.
Brian Wolf right now is in said transfer spot, 3rd place. Crivello jumps to his outside. Doug Woolley's going to go with him. These drivers looking to join the 17 that are already locked into the All-Star race, not counting the 6 that got locked in here tonight in the segments. Schilling, Scheck, Wolf still remain nose to tail as they look to advance in. They're going to hug the double yellow line. Willie going to try one last attempt on the top. Not going to get there. Brian Schilling, Jason Scheck, and Brian Wolf are going to be your final transfer drivers to race their way into the All-Star race next week.
We started this race. Oh, here's the pole sitter, Brian Schilling. Halfway through, Brian who? All of a sudden, Brian gets involved. Brian goes a lap down. Brian, another lap down. He was 2 laps down, I believe, twice in this race. He got 1 lap back, and then he went another lap down when we had that restart, remember? And then he's just struggled so much this race to get back on that lead lap. And when he got back on, we were wondering if he had damage. Remember earlier on,
Yeah.
we thought he had a problem possibly where he wouldn't be able to do anything because he got involved in a couple of instances, multiple laps down. But look, that's that no give up attitude that a few of these drivers have that allows them to make it into the playoffs every single season in the Tally Challenge.
I'm at a loss for words with just what Brian Schilling was able to pull off there, because just about every time we mentioned his name here tonight, something was going wrong, whether it be connection problems, off the lead lapper, as you alluded to as well, getting a piece of the side Jones spin back during the second segment. But Brian Schilling overcoming the adversity, getting back the laps that he needed, and there when it mattered at the end. It was a long road, but he was able to finally close out the deal after starting on pole to transfer into the All-Star race, winning the 3rd and final segment. Jason Scheck and Brian Wolf right behind him there as well, also going to nab some spots. And so now we know 9 drivers here tonight that lock themselves up spots in the All-Star race next week. Still a couple more spots, though, that are going to be available for drivers. That, of course, is going to be up to the RTG admins as to who gets those.
And if you think this was a really, really fun fest, remember last season what they like to do to us? We don't know if, we don't know what, we don't know when, but for all we know, there might be a quote-unquote special announcement throughout the race. Because remember, last season, they inverted half the field. And remember, I believe I was one of the top 10 up near the front. All of a sudden, I found myself in the back.
If I recall correctly, Terry Bauman coins it the curveball that they like to throw at the All-Star race drivers. And they threw him a curveball tonight, too. 3 times where realistic damage. As we talked there with Mark Pagley, he said, well, that kind of changed my strategy up than what I'm normally used to when it comes to a Talladega race. So going to be interesting to see just what the admins have in store for these drivers next week in terms of throwing them a bit of a curveball.
Well, we know that so far that's been announced. It's going to be 2x, but it will be realistic damage next week. So the realistic damage factor will still remain. Now, the question is it going to be an invert? Is it going to be half the field? Is it going to be the backfield? Is it going to be random vote? Is it going to be this, that? We don't even know what the stipulation is going to be. It could be just about nearly anything that the admins decide to throw at, but you know, they got to have that in the back of their mind. When will that happen, and what will it be if it does happen?
And we theoretically got 3 races here tonight with the 3 segments in 66 laps, which we're used to for the length of the Tally Challenge races. Next week, add on an extra 10 laps, 76 laps in the All-Star race. So, for those drivers that are used to fuel strategies for a 66 lap race, gonna make things a little bit different there too.
Seth, I'm gonna cut you off, and I do apologize for that, but I got an announcement for you.
Okay.
Dante has an announcement for us, Seth.
Thanks, Jessica and Seth. Wow, what an exciting race that was tonight.
No doubt.
Really good to see Brian Schilling come over with that overall win to finish segment number 3, and Jason Scheck and Brian Wolf also qualifying in there in the final segment. Owners picks. The RTG owners have met and have decided on 3 additional owners pick drivers to also advance to the 2021 RTG All-Star race. The 3 drivers are the number 7 of Cyber Jones, the number 38 of Rodney Sullins, and the number 9 of Chris Elliott. So congratulations to those 3 drivers as well for qualifying for the 2021 RTG All-Star Superspeedway All-Star Race.
There you have it,
And-
folks. We didn't even have to wait till next week to find out who those admin picks were going to be. So pretty cool there. We now know 12 drivers that locked themselves into the already 17 car field for next week.
Dante, I have to ask, and I don't know if you're allowed to say anything, and I don't need to know the exact details here, but is there a good possibility that we will see a stipulation be thrown in next week?
That race is going to be just as exciting as tonight, and I will say that the scenery will stay the same this time around. But, it'll be a slightly longer 76-lap race, and we look forward to it being very exciting here at Talladega.
So you're not going to give us any idea if there's a possibility of an inversion or anything?
No, not this time around, but hey, it's going to be an exciting race for sure.
Okay. Seth?
All right. Well, thank you for that announcement there, Dante. Appreciate it. And, best of luck to you next week. We know that you were already locked into the All-Star race. Didn't have to take part in the festivities tonight, but you're definitely going to have your work cut out for you next week. So best of luck to you then.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you, Jessica.
Yep.
All right, let's see if we can get our top 3 finishers here from this third and final segment.
Who would you want?
Let's work up the running order this time. Let's start with the third place finisher, Brian Wolf.
Okay, Mr. Brian Wolf in the number 29 machine, Seth.
Hey, Brian, it's Justin Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us? Yeah, we may have another AFKer here. Let's try again real quick. Brian, you there?
I think Brian doing something.
Yeah.
I'll see what we can do in a bit if he'll come back, okay?
Okay, let's see then. Let's move up to second place finisher, Jason Scheck.
Okay, let me get Mr. Admin here.
All right, Jason, Justin Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Got you guys.
All right, so you're running second there, coming to the end of this race. You've got the 4 ahead of you that you looked very committed to pushing to the front, but you had that transfer spot brewing behind you as well. So, were you keeping an eye, seeing if there was an outside line forming, or were you basically just committed to the bottom behind Schilling and whatever happened, happened?
Oh man, coming out of that last pit stop, Schilling gave me the word, and it was like old times from seasons ago, and I didn't lift one bit, and we caught that pack, and we knew what to do on our line there, and I was committed just to push him as far as it could, and then just be happy with the transfer spot.
Oh, Jason, congratulations for advancing and getting into next week's main event All-Star race, and didn't really see it too much up near the front, and all of a sudden there you were at the very end when it counted. So I haven't raced with you much except for this past season when you were there. I don't know if you're like a pretty much full-time Tally Challenge driver like all the time, and you just weren't there the past couple of seasons due to other events, but coming back for the All-Star race, you make it in now. You're going to be in the All-Star race. How does this event differ in your mind and how you approach it versus an actual Talladega Challenge race?
Honestly, for me, I'm just happy to be back racing again. I've been missing in action here for a while due to health problems and other personal problems, but things have been going good. Shout out to my girl Rachel that's watching. I've been things have been going great recently, and I was honestly just happy to be able to complete the race, and just looking forward to the race next weekend, race and the next season. Hopefully, I can be there for every race.
So, Jason, I got to ask you, because I asked a driver that transferred from the second segment, you had to wait until this third and final segment to lock yourself a spot into the All-Star race. In the tally challenge, you guys are out there with moderate damage. If you get involved in a wreck, there's always a chance that your car still might be up to speed, still be competitive. But at a super speedway with realistic damage, sometimes even the minimalist, a little bit of contact can be detrimental to your straightaway speed and your ability to stay up in the draft. So, how did you have to approach not only the first segment, but then also the second and third segment to make sure that not only you kept your car in one piece, but had yourself positioned up there for a transfer spot?
Yeah, honestly, it's just trying to focus. I'm looking myself. I'm looking 2 or 3 cars ahead of me to see what's going on, and you just got to be ready for that moment when a wreck happens or something like that, and just be sure you're not in. And even if you are, I mean, don't give up. Just keep at it. You never know what's going to happen, and luckily everything worked out for me today.
Well, Jason, congratulations on advancing into the All-Star race. We saw that run that you got there on that last couple of laps here for this All-Star Open. Can't wait to see if maybe you can replicate that with a really good run at the end of the All-Star race, maybe be able to pick up that victory. So best of luck to you there. We're going to let you go and get a little bit of rest here and get yourself ready and strategy-wise for the All-Star race in a week's time.
Hell yeah, thanks.
We have Brian Wolf now, Seth.
All right, let's see if we can talk with the driver of the 29. Brian, you got us up here in the F-Room booth?
I sure do. 10-4, Seth.
All right, Brian. Well, I think that maybe out of all the drivers here tonight that had to sweat it out the most, it would have had to be you. Final lap, you're sitting in that final race-in transfer spot of third place. You've got them double wide behind you. At the same time, you're running there single file with Schilling and Scheck. So what was the strategy? Was it just hug the bottom, or at some point you think you might have to jump up there and stop a run that formulated?
Well, I just wanted to stay in it, to be honest with you. I was really trying to help the 99 at the end there because I still felt bad of wrecking him out of this race back in season 45. So I really wanted to stay with him because he knows how to win these things. And the 38, he was complaining that he had a little bit of nose damage from an earlier incident. So he could keep up and stay in the draft, but he just couldn't make any moves. So I had to leave him, and I kind of felt bad about that. But I was just trying to stay in it and stay with whoever was going.
Brian, congratulations for making it into the main event next week, and look forward to seeing you do something really good with that 29 machine. But I'm just curious. I mentioned this to Mr. Jason Scheck a moment ago. We don't really for him, but for you, it's always been either a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday I come across you racing other series. You're not really, doing the tally challenge all the time. And then all of a sudden you come out to do the open. Is this a prelude to you coming to the tally challenges, or is this just, this is just open, I'm going to decide I'm going to race and look what happens?
Well, I don't know about that. Like I was telling these guys early on, I'm really green here because I haven't raced in this series since like season 45, and that was like 2 years ago, or even 3 years ago. I don't even know. But
that was before me.
Yeah, that was. I mean, tonight's race. I mean, it was really, really intense. And plus, you got to remember that this was the Open. This is for guys that aren't qualified, and to qualify, from what I understand, you have to either be a race winner or a past champion, something like that. So those guys weren't here tonight. So next week is going to be double hard.
Well, I mean, you taking the time to come over here and return just to race. I mean, it's got to give you a good feeling knowing that that option's there, along with a lot of great people to race with and to enjoy yourself. I mean, was there any point tonight where you were really, like, I wouldn't say paranoid, but like, oh, I gotta get, I don't care who's around me, I gotta get it. And you really needed to get back into this and finish third or second or first. I mean, were you really trying to be aggressive to keep that position, or no?
Actually, yes, I was, especially in the last segment there. The three of us broke out, and then Crivello in the 56 caught us. And then he was trying to pass, being fourth in line, and I think he held up our momentum a little bit, which allowed the second pack behind us to kind of catch up at the end there. And from that point on, it was just checkers or wreckers. I mean, I wasn't going to be denied.
Let's talk real quickly about another player in this race, Brian. Of course, with the 3X, you guys forced to come down pit road. That was also part of the stipulation that you had to make at least a 2-tire green flag pit stop in each one of the segments. So, how difficult was it being able to try and coordinate strategy with other drivers to make sure you all came down at the same time? Because as we know, you want the numbers leaving pit road with you, but sometimes traffic control can be a little bit difficult when you're all coming to pit lane together.
That true, yeah, and I mean, we're out there communicating. I mean, when I was running in third, fourth spot, they're hovering around, the top 5 or whatever. I just let the cars in front of me, I just kind of told them, let me know when you're going so we can stay together, and it worked out. I mean, those, I'll tell you what, I'm just ecstatic. I mean, I'm almost in tears from this finish tonight because, when you give me the microphone, you'll know why. But yeah, that the pit stops were all tremendous. I overshot the stall on that very last one, but I only took fuel only because they scrubbed the 2-tire in the last segment. They scrubbed the 2-tire rule, so I took fuel only and was good to go.
Well, Brian, congratulations on advancing into the All-Star race. We definitely look forward to seeing what you bring to the table next week. As you said, it's going to get twice as hard, and based on the racing we've seen all season long here with the Tally Challenge, definitely agree with you, but certainly looking to see how you're going to be able to rise to the task there, and best of luck for that. We're going to let you now be able to do those shout-outs.
10-4, Seth. I appreciate you guys. I really do. And next week's going to really be a lot of fun. Tonight was a lot of fun. But I want to just take a minute here and do some shout outs. I want to dedicate tonight's performance to Bonnie Parker. That is Cannon Hinnett's mother. You guys covered our race last October over at BSR, and we're racing for him. We're racing for justice. And so I want to dedicate our performance to her and Cannon. The little dudes really helped me out over the last few months here. And I also want to shout out to my crew, Bobby Kiger, Ronnie Bussey, Bobby Ellis, Missy Ellis, Brittany Cool, and Ellie Mae. These guys have really been supportive of me and Cannon's racing, and we're just very pleased, very pleased. I'm really, really happy to get in here with you guys and to be able to say his name, because that's one of the hashtags is say his name, Justice for Cannon. And I really appreciate it. And this goes out to him and his family. I appreciate that.
Well, that's Brian Wolf. We're going to see him All-Star racing next week, next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Congratulations, Brian. Best of luck to you there in that All-Star race. Maybe we'll get to talk to you in victory lane.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I also, I want to thank the league actually for putting this league or for this race that they, it's an annual thing and it's really a lot of fun. And shout out, actually, congratulations to all the guys who made it in tonight. That wasn't easy. That was not easy at all. It was a lot of fun though. And thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Well, it certainly looked like fun up here. Kind of glad I was in the booth and not in a car. That's Brian Wolf, and he's going to be transferring into the All-Star race. We're going to now see if we can get our final segment winner of the evening, Brian Schilling. Brian, just set up here. You got us?
Yeah.
Okay, where do I start? Let's go back to lap 1. At the very beginning of this race, turn 1, you run into connection issues. You lose another lap under green flag conditions. You get one of those laps back between the segment cautions of 1 and 2. Then you get involved in a wreck over in the tri-oval in segment 2. Have to get another lucky dog to get back in the lead lap. Next thing we know, we're calling your name, winning the third and final segment at the end of this race. A long 66 laps, but you never gave up.
That was not how I wanted to get in. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, a little eventful. I had something pop up, kill my screen. So yeah, I ended up, I think, 2 laps down. By the time I got back in, it was just a fight. I thought, okay, great, I'll get one back by the end of the segment. Apparently, some guys had some issues. There were multiple lap down guys, so it just fought. It's always the motto. I don't give up. Anything can happen. So, I mean, the race just proved it there.
Brian, I just, I like said, I don't know what to think. You got you got 2 laps down multiple times. You got involved in a couple of incidents. You come back and you find yourself in the most awkward positions, and then at the very end, you're up front. And I mean, we saw Brian Wolf behind you, looking, trying to make sure that nobody passed him. When Crivello started trying to make moves on Brian Wolf, for third, did you feel like you had this secured, that you were good, that nothing was going to happen? You had it at that point, or were you still really concerned and really worried that you may have this yanked from your hand?
Well, first things first, I have to thank Jason Scheck. Jason, if I didn't have him behind me, we wouldn't even gotten up there to catch those guys. And Jason's a very, very underrated super speedway racer, and he was hooked to me the entire time. But at the end of the race there, it was basically I was mirror driving. I know Jason was going to stick with me. He knew he had the spot locked in. I was trying to protect. And even Wolf, I seen Wolf make a move to the inside. I don't know if it was defensive or not. I made sure, I moved down quick enough so Jason could follow me, because I wanted to keep Jason in the top 3 too. Because, like I said, if it wasn't for him, uh, it- I wouldn't have been there.
Now, Brian, we saw here tonight that obviously you were able to overcome adversity. There were no points on the line, just an opportunity to transfer into the All-Star race. You're now locked in to the 76-lap main event next week. So, barring any problems taking place, how do you think your chances look with all you were able to overcome here tonight heading into that All-Star race?
Well, I would hope to say I didn't use up all my luck, but just keep the car clean, not get 2 laps down, and I think should have a good chance. Just find the right guys that I work well with and see how it pans out.
I am curious, how do you approach it? Are you one of those guys who just relaxes and lets the race come to you, or do you feel like track position's always key right before a pit stop?
It really depends on where you are at the time. If I'm up front, I'm gonna try to stay as far up as possible. But if I'm like mid pack, I'm either depending on what part of the race, I'll try to just kind of find a spot to hide essentially until I can maybe blend in and just stay out of trouble.
You
But
can't really hide out there, Brian.
if it staying running in the back for a little bit, I'm okay with that. Like I said, it all just varies on the flow of the race and uh, how the yellows fall and whatnot. So,
Well, congratulations for making it in next week, Brian. I can't wait to see what miracles and what weird things happen to you to where you randomly show up at the very end and win the thing, too. Looking forward to that.
thanks.
Well, not often we get to talk about a comeback story in a qualifying race, but Brian Schilling does that here tonight as he advances into the All-Star race, winning the 3rd and final segment here of the Open. Congratulations, Brian.
Thank you. If I could just thank one guy especially, Terry Ballman. Miss you. I wish I got to talk to you here lately. Just thank you for everything you've done. Same thing with the other owners here, David Cannon, Sean Prime, every admin here. I know what they go through day in and day out. They do an awesome job. And thank you guys for doing this. It's always a blast to watch.
Oh, Brian Schilling was driving a Kevin Harvick car tonight. Harvick's known as the closer. Brian Schilling, the closer here tonight in the All-Star Open, getting that final segment victory. Once again, congratulations, Brian, and best of luck next week.
Thank you.
Well, that was just the qualifiers, Jess. 17 drivers were locked into the All-Star race coming into tonight. 12 drivers locked themselves in, 9 through the segment top 3 finishes, 3 drivers in through the admin choices. The drivers that got in through segment 1 were Donnie Garrett, Ken Roberts, and Bob Dixon. The drivers through segment 2, Zach Freemow, Glenn Harris, and Mark Paglia. Segment 3, Brian Schilling, Jason Scheck, and Brian Wolf. And of course, the admin votes Cy Jones, Rodney Sullins, and Chris Elliott. That gives us a total of 29 drivers in the All-Star race next week. There were only 20 cars in the field here tonight for the qualifying races, and we saw some really aggressive racing. So now, add another 9 drivers to that field next week. What are we in for?
Well, we have to look up the drivers that are involved. I mean, if right away, when you go look at that page of the people who are there, Hank Middleton, Jeremy Jeffries, Terry Bombard, Jeff Supta, Chuck McClure, Joe DeSpirito, Billy Elliser, Dave Nelson, Josh Metallic, Richard Martin, Dante Rickey, Grant Wesley, Tim Knopsker, Bernie Mobbs, Chris Emery, John Godfrey, and Bob Seminara. These guys are known to always pretty much be there at the end, up front, and this whole pack every single week. And, you know, I'll admit, being part of that, it's kind of annoying because you can't really do much because it's always roughly the same drivers up near the front. So the question is, who's going to win it? Because you can only have one winner, Seth. And next week, yeah, it's 2 times wear, but that's 2 times more the excitement and adrenaline. Probably going to see some more incidents for everyone wanting that position, Seth.
And not only that, but you mentioned a lot of those names right there. 3 of them former Tally Challenge champions who actually had a 4th into the field with Brian Schilling racing his way into the All-Star race. With it being realistic damage, you know, a lot of these big names, if big trouble breaks out in that All-Star race, it could take a number of those contenders out. And usually with realistic damage, there's no second chances.
Don't tell Rodney Sullins that.
I will not tell Rodney Sullins that. He's in the All-Star race, though. He's another of the guys that was able to survive to make it in, albeit through the admin vote, but he's still in.
But just for all intents and purposes, for the format here that we have, at least we know it's going to be next week, April 29th. It will be practice at 7:30, drivers meet 8:30, qualifying 8:45. We will be on air at on FRN covering that All-Star race at roughly around 9 o'clock, I would say, Seth, roughly.
Yep, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Fixed setup, 2x, realistic damage, 76 laps, it's 40% of a race. And we normally cover, you guys, usually when you guys do it, it's what, 66 laps normally? What do you guys do, roughly?
Yeah, yep. Add that 10 laps on there.
And remember, it's roughly between 18 to 20. We can stretch it 21 laps if we save for fuel. So it's not going to be a 20, 40, 60, 80 type of thing.
I believe it would be at least 4 trips to pit road that drivers are going to have to make next week, as with the 66 lappers that we had for the Tally Challenge, it was at least 3 trips to pit road that would have to be made.
Unless Grant Wesley decides he wants to just play with the clutch a little bit and cross over.
He could very well. Who knows? But
I mean, the strategy, though, Seth, thinking, moving forward, there's no points on the line. No championship. Don't worry about that. It's just one special, fun event, but everyone wants to win. So you know that their thoughts will be changing on how they actually drive and how they attack and approach certain moments, whether it's pit road, whether it's track position. Oh, we see this guy run the high side all the time. We know he's going. No, he's going to the bottom. A lot of things will change when we get to this race.
I absolutely agree. I don't see how, with all the different things we've talked about, how big the field's going to be, the names that we've had, they're already locked in and have raced their way in, and the fact realistic damage comes into play and no points on the line. You got to take everything you had in your playbook for the season of the Tally Challenge and throw it out, because it's going to be an entirely different approach for this race.
And most of these drivers, if not all of them, past couple of seasons that I've been here, that I'm aware of, playoff contenders. So we know what they bring to the table.
Absolutely. We know that there's a lot of alliances. If we go down the list of drivers that are already locked into the All-Star race, they'll be working with each other. We saw some alliances bud here tonight as well in this All-Star Open. You got to wonder if that will transfer over to the All-Star race. So it's going to make things very interesting
Oh yeah.
when we determine who that All-Star race winner is going to be next week.
We got Josh Metallic, and we've seen the 39 and the 17 work well together. We've seen Donnie Garrett. You know, he says he's got no friends, but he finds and picks and chooses who he gets. And we saw it tonight. He had Rodney Sullins and Ken Roberts with him, and that paid off greatly for that guy to win the first segment and advance. Ken Roberts advance as well. Rodney not so fortunate, but he is going to be making it as the fan vote. But you got the Florida gang too. Bernie, Joe, and also Bob Simmons there. So anything's going to happen, will happen, Seth.
Yeah, throw in the alliance we saw at the end of this All-Star Open with Brian Schilling and Jason Scheck. If they get hooked up, they could maybe be able to do something. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens next week. Usually in a season, you end up having a friend for the entirety of the year to try and keep you both up there at the front. But everybody, as you said, there's only one position that's important when we get to the All-Star next week, and that is position number 1 coming to that checkered flag. So everybody is going to throw the alliances out the window when we get towards the end of that race. But it's going to be interesting to watch how we formulate alliances and see alliances break during the course of that 76 lap event. That is going to be taking place next Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when the green flag will fly. Jess and I will be there to bring you guys that call. And again, Jess, with what we saw here tonight in the Open, cannot wait for that All-Star race, but appreciate you joining me tonight and can't wait until we get to call the All-Star race next week.
Looking forward to it. If you like we said, we didn't have the all the playoff contenders in there tonight. We had a couple, but we didn't have them all. And next week we got most of them sitting right there. So if you guys thought that it was exciting as much action as we had tonight, you just wait. Next week you're in for a real treat.
Absolutely. 10 extra laps for these drivers, 29 car field, and only one will be standing tall at the end of the night. Congratulations once again to the 12 drivers that qualified their way into the All-Star race in this evening's All-Star Open. 9 racing their way in, 3 getting in via the admin fan vote. For Jessica Shelton, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for joining us here tonight on your Thursday evening. We hope to see you here again next week for the All-Star race here on the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.